we going? So welcome to Puerto in the beautiful sunshine of Mallorca. It's Sunday and it's a very hot Sunday here in Mallorca. It's still temperatures 35 degrees Celsius on the dock here in the Marina de Puerto and we're going into the third day of racing. We're seeing Interlodge on the top of the table. Slightly unexpected, Cameron Appleton coming in as a tactician, standing in for this regatta and clearly having a certain influence. Everything firing on all cylinders, and they had a solid day yesterday. 2 third places, and that takes them to the top of the table. But let's look back at yesterday's review program. A little summary of yesterday. Day 2 here in Puerto Portals, another hot one in prospect. Good sea breeze coming in, maybe 10 knots, something like that, but still hot. Very open at the top of the fleet, very difficult racecourse to read, but don't sweat the small stuff.
For sure it's going to be another hot one, very similar to the other days, to the past 4 days that we've been sailing here.
Well, race 3, a decent sea breeze on the start line, round about 10 knots. Phoenix start nicely, 2 boats from the committee boat end of the line, the right end of the line. Privetza way down on the pin end. It's all about the ley line to the top mark though. The left side is generally favoured, but Sled are the early leaders on the right. But as is often the case in Palma, the left comes good. Phoenix get round the top mark with the lead. Allegra second and Privetza in third. Quantum Racing and Platoon are deep, but it's a win for Phoenix and they extend their lead at the top of the table. Well, there's only 8 or 9 knots. The breeze has dropped very slightly for the start of the second race of the day. Platoon start nicely on the left of the line towards the pin end of the line. Quantum Racing are actually best off the start line, a really nice opening. Phoenix are over the start line and have to recross, and that really does cost them up the first beat. So at the top mark it's Platoon leading, Quantum Racing in second. Privetza once again doing a good first beat with Interlodge round in fourth, but Interlodge get through to third with Platoon winning, Quantum Racing second, Interlodge through third, and Interlodge take the regatta lead for the first time in their recent history. So the standings after 4 races, Interlodge leading by a single point, they're on 11. Sled are second on 12 points, Phoenix now in third on 13 points.
I'm very excited that we were able to be the prevailing boat today, and particularly with 2 third places. So it showed the consistency of the team, I would think, more than anything else.
New team, but I've known a lot of the guys for a long time. I sail with a lot of the guys on different boats, and you know, just the team's just so in tune with each other. They got a good bond, and it's just a pleasure.
Yeah, the first one was a glamour actually. Sort of the strategy, what we talked about beforehand, worked out nicely. We got a really nice start. The boat was going really well, and this fleet, you know, a couple of metres, you know, not across at the top mark. You go from first to last.
Well, 2 good races on the Bay of Palma. Light sea breezes still. The new regatta leader in the shape of Interlodge. Very difficult, very hard on the water, still super hot, and that is real sweat. So that was our recap from yesterday. A good day, as said, for the Interlodge in particular. Cameron Appleton coming on board and really getting all things firing nicely. A very experienced tactician in his own right. Used to sail with the Quantum Racing. And let's look at the standings. Quick look through the table before we go out to the race course. We see that, say, Interlodge are on the top of the table with 11 points, so just 1 point up on Sled. Sled consistent yesterday. Interlodge were the boat of the day really with 2 third places. Sled 2 fourths, not far behind, and they're just 1 point behind on the overall table. Up and down day really for Phoenix. Phoenix went out and won that first race, then were over the start line in the second race and had to do their best to recover, but it's a little bit of a one-sided track here, and unfortunately there was no passing places for them. Recovery mode for the Platoon and the Quantum Racing. They had first and a second. on that second race. Platoon getting themselves up to fourth. 18 points, are still 5 points adrift of the podium, so that's a big ask for them over the next 2 days. And also the same is pretty much the case for Quantum Racing down there in 7th, but getting a better result there in the second race with their second. Allegra 2 and a 7 yesterday. Gladiator a little bit inconsistent, so too Vayu, though Vayu breaking that string of ninths with a 6th in the fourth race, second race yesterday. But looking out on the water, the breeze is at between 200 and 210 degrees, 8 to 9 knots, and the windward leg is set at 1.7 nautical miles, so very much in keeping, in proportion to the weight of the breeze. Now yesterday we had 10 knots on the start line. The breeze dropped away very slightly for the second race, so let's see whether we get the thermal building as we really would like, as we know Palma delivers so often. But it does seem to be very much the pattern this season that we've had so many atypical days with this big heat wave. This is clearly diminishing the sea breeze build here. But anyway, let's see how things play out. We're at less than a minute before the start. We're seeing Phoenix and Interlodge, two of the top three boats, starting towards the committee boat end of the line. Provezza down on the pin end with the Vayu. Vayu often seem to be down there. Sled also like their right end of the line. So we've got Phoenix, Interlodge, Sled and Quantum all lining up towards the committee boat, towards the signal boat. There does seem to be, well, I was going to say there does seem to be enough room, but we just saw Interlodge closing out, or closing the door on Phoenix. Phoenix may just decide to come in late. So we've got 8 seconds to go. Provezza building speed nicely at the pin end. Gladiator in the middle. Platoon up to the line on time. Actually, Quantum, according to our tracking, breaking the line first and in nice shape, getting across the line first. Provezza third across. Vayu late and probably 2 boat lengths behind the line at the committee boat end. Phoenix get away reasonably nicely. Interlodge are bow forward on them. Sled away solidly, but they have Quantum below them, albeit a couple of boat lengths below them. So watching Provezza then pushing the bow down, sailing fast towards what they hope will be the Palma Bay left-hand shift. Phoenix sailing high. Remember Tom Slingsby said the other day, really his interpretation of the Bay of Palma is you really have to pick a side and put your faith in that side. Well, they have chosen the early right along with Interlodge and Sled. So in fact we've got all 3 top contenders, all 3 podium positions side by side, starting at the right hand end of the line. Not everybody can be right. Meantime, Quantum start nicely. The early leaders in this race, race number 5, midpoint of the regatta as well as the midpoint of the season. So Quantum already have a lead of 30 metres after that near perfect start. Have options in the middle of the course. Provezza pushing the risk a little bit more, going out to the left side of the track. As I said, that worked yesterday. Now what we saw in particular on this race yesterday was Sled working the right and it progressively collapsing. So between Quantum and Provezza at the moment, Phoenix doing nicely on that right side. Provezza with the wizard of Palma Bay, navigator Nacho Postigo, in the hot seat, working with Colaparada as strategist to Hamish Pepper, tactician, John Cutler steering. And we're just seeing them take the advantage line to 3 or 4 meters over Quantum. Platoon didn't get off the line the way they wanted, and are a little bit deep after winning that second race yesterday. However, it is very, very early days in this race. So our regatta leaders then, Interlodge, poised in fourth. They have been the most consistent team so far. With that pair of thirds yesterday, just getting them to the top of the table. Of course, in some respects, aided by the bumps in the road, the problems for Platoon and Quantum Racing in the early races. But certainly Quantum bouncing back, as we have seen in the past. So Platoon caught in the traffic just now. Ironically, they were the team that made the little bit of a jump yesterday on the strength of that race win. But as ever in this fleet, one small mistake, one loss of a metre or two here and there, and especially in the early stages of a race, can see you dump down the fleet. And that is the case for Platoon just now. So unfortunately, though, they wanted to get out to the left, I'm quite sure John Kostecki and Jordi Calafat, I'm sure, wanted to work out to the left along with Provezza. We're just in Allegra's dirty air, having no choice to clear out and try and find themselves a lane. Not sailing a terrible angle, really, looking at how they're coming across. If anything, coming across maybe in a little bit of a lefty, a little lift. Interesting, yeah, for sure. Just getting quite a nice high line coming across our Platoon. But Provezza have tact, will bank their gains. I suspect going back at Quantum to carry on for the moment. Will that be a mistake? Certainly looking at the gain such as it is that Platoon have made. Geo Racing tracking has them gaining a couple of places already, going out to that right side, maybe wind pressure, but for sure they're coming across in a little lift. Interlodge working out to the right, of a little bit of a hiccup there if you look at their trail. Coming back on something of a knock, then lifting. So Provezza, in general, Provezza's first beats have been good. They've been certainly top three in a number of races, but then they've tended to lose a place or two. But that looks like a good lead, 70 meters or so in the first bait, on a track which tends to be one-sided. They can see that grow, I'm quite sure. Provetsa have not won here, but won the last race in Cascais. Remember, their season started pretty badly for them in Bayona. They had to make some last-minute substitutions on board with some health issues. However, started to show improvements in Cascais, finishing with a 2:71, a couple of seconds in their results lineup. So interesting then, just watching now, if you watch Provetsa's trail, they do seem to be knocking slightly, but credit to Platoon out on that right side. Remember, a few moments ago they were in 9th, according to the tracking. Getting out to the right now, seem to have had good pressure. But that lineup on the extreme left, watching Phoenix's track, Phoenix lifting on port, in fact lifting almost round the bow of sled. So now you start to get into this situation in this building lift, as we saw first race yesterday, where the boats stack up higher and higher and in the end have to go bow down round the separator mark, round the protector mark. So you can see this being an interesting mark rounding, considering how close these boats are on the left of the course. Provetsa now doing nicely with quantum to weather. They have clear daylight back to quantum. It's changing all the time. So Platoon have tacked from that right side. We'll cross a couple of boat lengths behind Interlodge. Phoenix still lifting and taking the separation from Vayu. Allegri having to clear their air, I think. Just taking a short tack to windward. Going to be close between Phoenix and Vayu. Phoenix have the inside boat position. Helmsman will have the opportunity to just bring the bow down a little bit and accelerate over Vayu, you would think, as we get up towards the weather mark. Look at the relative boat speeds just now. Vayu just consistently, just a little bit quicker. These are instantaneous speeds, but interesting. But really, all in all, quite a big separation in the fleet from first to ninth, considering this is still the first beat, 250 metres between Preveza and Platoon. Let's see how it plays out round the windward mark. So Quantum have maybe closed up just a very little bit, as ever. Any questions, any queries, any ideas, do post them on our social network channels, Instagram, Twitter, live on YouTube. So pretty sure this is the first time that Preveza have led round the windward mark. They've been in the top 2, top 3. No, actually that's not true. First race, Preveza, Platoon, Allegra, Leeward Gate, Preveza, Platoon. But they did end up third in that opening race. So can Preveza, can Ergen Imre's team hold out and record their first win here? They're lying in 5th place. Hard to say. It's all about the ley line now, getting round the top mark. Preveza then have tacked and coming back at Quantum on starboard. Now whether Quantum will manage to tack inside them, which they are doing so, you just wonder whether Preveza went too far there. Phoenix coming in on port. Look at the angles now, as we were saying. You can just see the separator mark, and Allegra, Gladiator having to pull their bow down. In the meantime, as they're lifted up to the mark on port again, Quantum and Preveza seeming to end up coming in a little bit of a knock. Phoenix, now we've seen this situation before with Phoenix on the inside. Phoenix are going to shoot the mark. Phoenix overlapped with Quantum. Preveza overlapped on the outside. Nice work on Phoenix. So Phoenix in the end get round first. Who would have thought? Great work, great call coming in, getting the ley line to the separator mark just right, and then carrying on, getting through Quantum. Preveza, as we said, leading on that beat and ending up third round the mark. Sled going round in 4th. Gladiator in 5th. Vayu in 6th. Allegra are going to be 7th. So Phoenix really good top part of that beat. Under pressure, of course, from Quantum Racing. Preveza in the mix, but will be smarting after giving away the lead at the top of the course. Just seemed to go too far. Not sure why they went up to the ley line, gave the opportunity to Phoenix to tack inside them. Platoon round in 8th, and the regatta leaders then interlodge. Was that their moment in the sun yesterday? So some tough moments then for the Interlodge team. Yeah, last night was all about big smiles and a successful day leading the regatta. Now slumping to 9th place at the moment. But really it tells its own story with Provezza starting off the pin end of the line. Working the left, getting round the top mark first. It was ever the case on the Bay of Palma, but looking at the projected standings, Phoenix would return to the top of the leaderboard by 2 points if everything stayed the same. Sled second, Interlodge would drop to third, Quantum would move up to 5th and ahead of Platoon, but the key things in a lot of ways is the points gap between first and Quantum in 25 points, Platoon on 26, Phoenix on 14 points. So this is race 5. We've got a 10 race program as usual. And once again, this slightly one-sided course means a straight line up down the run, straight speed race, test for the trimmers. On the one hand, fairly straightforward moments for the tacticians, for the after guards to just recover slightly, just take a few moments, knowing that it's a drag race for the meantime. So Phoenix 70 meters or so ahead of Quantum. Sled in 4th. They are pretty solid. 2 seconds, 2 fourths. This could be their 3rd, 4th in a row. They're 60 meters or so behind the Provezza. So Interlodge jibing early at the back of the fleet. Vayu in 6th just now. Good top third of the beat, really. Nice work from Nick Rogers. I think their starting is not what they got really firing in Cascais with Vayu, but again they have 1 or 2 changes in the crew lineup here, so it's a learning process for them in some respects. Anyway, Phoenix jibe, Quantum jibe. And of course, for those of you who don't watch 52 Super Series very often, a quick reminder that there are no discards in this circuit whatsoever, neither in the regatta or over the course of the season. Every race counts, every point counts. So correspondingly, when you look at Quantum Racing, for example, winning the world title with 33 points over 10 races, and then getting 21 points over the first 3 races here, that does give you quite heavy ballast in the overall standings. Takes a dent, makes a dent in your overall standing. They were leading coming into this regatta. In the meantime, Phoenix, if anything, have extended for another 5 or 10 meters coming downwind. So standings coming into this regatta, for those of you who don't remember or know them: Quantum were leading on 52 points, Platoon on 66, Phoenix on 69. So the good thing from Quantum's perspective is that although they have put a lot of points on the board for the first 3 races, so too did their main rivals, Platoon. The damage being done by Phoenix, who were 17 points behind. So Sled challenging Provezza slightly. So a bit of a gap between Quantum and Provezza, over 100 meters. Coming downwind on this first run of race 5 of 10. Phoenix leading, and this would see them getting back on top of the leaderboard for this 3rd regatta of the season. So much about getting off the start line and getting that key position on the first beat, as it always is, but top of that upwind with Phoenix really was quite special. Tony Norris saw on the helm of Phoenix just holding his nerve and positioning the boat perfectly with enough momentum to shoot round the mark with 2 boats outside him overlapped. So looking upwind from the leeward gate now. Sled trying to soak down to Preveza as best they can. So Phoenix have the choice of marks. We'll go round this right hand mark looking upwind. One advantage being that you don't go through the lee, don't go through the disturbed airs of the boats coming downwind. So Phoenix round in first, Quantum in second. Preveza and Sled are close. Preveza will have the break the mark room zone first and will be entitled to mark room from Sled, but Sled doing all they can. The miracle of Sled's wayward tracker once again as we see them going on. As we did yesterday, don't panic, Sled fans. There we go. Exactly the same as yesterday. Anyway. Let's see whether in fact Sled are through Preveza. It's hard to tell. Maybe Gladiator round in fifth. 5, 6, 9, the last three results for the British team. Paul Goodison calling tactics on board the Gladiator. So in the end, Interlodge, the Regatta leaders are quite a long way behind. So the duel up this beat, the big duel to watch really is a little bit more perhaps Preveza versus Sled, although Quantum have got some separation from Phoenix. And they've actually closed up. I mean, this is going to be an interesting beat. You're just starting to see on the overhead view just now, you can see Quantum are knocking very slightly. You can see that now. Quantum getting a low angle, knocking slightly. Phoenix not so much. So clearly that's port hand lift will come in once again. I think Phoenix have got it covered. But changes all the time really. If you look at that, we're just seeing Gladiator getting themselves up to fourth, of Preveza on that right side now in fifth. Sled potentially third. Gladiator gained to fourth on that left side. But So Gladiator going well on that left side just now, and they again should increase as they tack onto port. Getting a little bit more leverage on Sled and Provezza on the right, but so there we see now Quantum have tacked, and we'll go back at Phoenix. Quantum have tacked. Going back at Phoenix. In the end, Phoenix still have a decent breathing space. And just tacking to cover Quantum. Quantum tack at the same time. Will Phoenix double tack and go back with them, I wonder? Remember how the top third of this beat, the final approach, worked to Phoenix's favour. Last time they managed to get in on port tack. Now have Phoenix just handed the advantage back to Quantum. Very much swings and roundabouts. Question coming in from Johnny Goldsberry, who we know well, asking how many more races in the event, and there are 5 to go. But as we mentioned earlier, no discards. So Gladiator coming back from the left. See whether they make much of a gain, whether they get a lift. But look at the angle that Phoenix are sailing at compared to Gladiator. So a little bit of a curse of the commentator there, really. One of the perils of watching the video game rather than seeing the real action on the water, but such is life. And also Quantum's tracker momentarily pausing. But certainly Phoenix sailing a high angle on port just now. Gladiator lifted then, as we expected. Gladiator coming back at Sled. Navigator on the Gladiator is none other than Bruno Zerilli, Italian, who was navigator on Azzurra for so many years, enjoying a little bit of British culture. So Phoenix holding on quite nicely relative to Quantum. Sled up in third, Gladiator fourth. Now Provezza, remember Provezza led round that top mark. First time up, now mid-fleet. Or theoretically below mid-fleet in fifth. So no mistaking who the top 2 boats are. We're within 35, 40 metres of each other, Phoenix and Quantum racing, then a big gap back to Sled. And we're watching Gladiator on the far left, still lifting, then banking some of their gain. Once again, out on that left side. It's essential where possible not to overstand or not to end up with too much gain, trying to take everything. But we will see the same again with the boats furthest to the left. Coming bow down. Anyway, Quantum pushing hard inside and to windward of Phoenix. Don't think Phoenix under too much pressure in this position just now. All the excitement of the Palma left-hand track here for you now. You have the same situation really between first and second and third and fourth. So we're nearing the top of the second beat, race 5 of 10. If Phoenix can hold out and win this race, I think they would be tied on points with Sled potentially. I wonder if we could see the projected points table after the mark. We can. Much easier then, but certainly a good race for Phoenix after that 8th second race yesterday, 1-3-1-8. I talked to Cameron Dunn about the situation just pre-start and said that Sled and Gladiator came from a surprising position. All got very tight and they were just pushed over the line in the final seconds. So clearly our race officer Maria Torrio doing a good job of putting some starboard end bias, some bias on the right hand end. And in general then that balance really appearing to be just about right now. So Phoenix attacking and crossing Quantum. And they are over 230 metres clear, so it's a match race, such as it is. Phoenix versus Quantum. Phoenix just pulling the bow up momentarily so you go round the top mark, leading as they did first time up, pursued by Quantum Racing, who were second in the second race yesterday behind Platoon. So who's going to be third round? Looking very much like Sled. Sled 2244 lying second. Sled up to third round the top mark, fourth first time up. Provezza led through much of the first beat, but then rounded third First time up, round fourth this time, Gladiator in fifth. As indeed they were first time up. Platoon in sixth, made a couple of places on that round. Allegra, Andy Soriano's team lying sixth at this regatta, third in the World Championships last month in Cascais. Where they beat Phoenix by 1 point to secure that podium position. So Quantum then pursuing Phoenix down this final run of the first race of the day. We had that 1 hour delay again today because of the sea breeze was still quite light. So Sled holding off Preveza in the meantime, having a pretty good regatta all in all. They were fifth at the World Championships. Disappointed to lose their world title, which they won on the Bay of Palma, racing out of the Real Club Nautico in November. So unfortunately not being offered a full year's tenure of the title, but nonetheless Quantum did sail very, very well and were well deserved winners in Cascais. And the Quantum machine, I think, back firing on all cylinders. After one or two hiccups, obviously things settling down now. And really they were first over the start line. Safe start more in the middle of the line. We had Preveza at the pin end, Phoenix more towards the committee boat end of the line. In the end there was really nothing between the three boats at the top mark. And a big gap then between Quantum and Sled. But relative boat speeds are just looking at Quantum Racing doing 8.8, Sled about 9. Sled Prevets are still close. Good drag race down towards the finish line. Once again, no tactical options. It's a boat speed race. Instantaneous speeds almost the same. Prevets are very slightly quicker. So maximum concentration for the trimmers coming down this final run. Phoenix lead off with the jibe. Quantum carry on. Quantum still carrying on. And with, as I said, 250, 260 metres between Sled and Quantum, why wouldn't Quantum carry on? You never know. Might as well push the risk-reward equation and see if they gain a little bit of leverage, a little bit of extra puff out on that side. Spinnaker trimmer on the Quantum is the Italian Federico Michetti. It's interesting, Phoenix coming back. So I wonder whether Phoenix are spooked a little bit by Quantum's move, just thinking, well, we'll come back and cover them. At the back of the Phoenix, it's Cameron Dunn and Tom Slingsby. Downwind trimmer is Lorenzo Massa. So certainly closer between the two of them. Just a reminder, if you need it, Terry Hutchison steering the Quantum this week, and Tony Norris on the Phoenix. So that lead, which at one point was 100 metres and then 50, now cut to 20 or so. Quantum certainly using all the tricks in the book. To draw Phoenix back and cover a few minutes ago. Now Phoenix doing just that. So for Phoenix, you know, just staying between the finish line and their man, I think. So Phoenix need to hold out if they're going to lead this regatta by a single point, if they can keep Quantum behind them. Sled would be 1 point, or will be 1 point behind. If positions stay the same through the finish line, which is very much in sight for both the Phoenix team and the Quantum team, should be fairly straightforward for the Phoenix. Just staying patient and focused. Phoenix just now almost a knot quicker than Quantum. So Quantum jibe early. And may as well try something. See if they can draw Phoenix to do something. Phoenix are going to carry on and just jibe and get through the line. But as ever, you never quite know, particularly with a lead of 200 meters or so behind the Quantum. Phoenix charging towards the line just now. Quantum will end up doing one and in from there. Phoenix should cross in the next few seconds and would return to the top of the overall leaderboard, albeit by a single point from Sled. Sled protecting against Provezza in the meantime, but that is the third win this weekend, this regatta for Phoenix. 13181. Sled have not finished worse than fourth. They have 2 fourths in their tally as Quantum come through. Quantum's second in a row takes them up to 5th place on the leaderboard, assuming that Platoon come through in 6th, which seems quite likely. But what a lead Phoenix and Quantum built up there. Almost a minute between Sled and Phoenix. After Sled will be Provezza in 4th. Again, I think they'll be rueing their losses. But still, 4th is pretty good for Provezza. In general, their season getting better. Close between Platoon and Gladiator. Very close. Very, very close. And Platoon will just get through, I think, at the right-hand boy, stealing the 5th from Gladiator. That will agitate the Gladiator crew, I'm quite sure. Up in 4th at one point in the race, ending up with 6th. Allegra 7th. Vayu are going to be 8th. Vayu were up in 4th or 5th, also in the midpoint of the first upwind. So what an exciting, engaging top mark. First time up. Excellent work by the Phoenix team. Getting round inside Quantum Racing and Provezza. And that was the key move. That was what got them ahead. And they have led all the way round. So Phoenix on the bounce back after that Value through for 8th, Interlodge 9th, and that ninth, dropping Interlodge from the top of the table to 3rd, and a points gap opening. So there you see the ranking for that race. Phoenix, Quantum, Sled, Provezza, Platoon, Gladiator, Allegra, Value and Interlodge. And the points standings after that race, well, Phoenix will be on top of the table indeed, 14 points for them, Sled 15 and 5-point gap to Interlodge in 3rd. Platoon then 3 points behind, Quantum Racing 2 points behind up to 5th though. Quantum and Platoon just coming back progressively, getting back up the leaderboard a little bit. Provezza in 6th, tied on points with Quantum, so the middle of the leaderboard between 4th and 6th in particular, super close. Then Allegra, disappointing, 2 7ths in a row in 7th overall. Gladiator in 8th and Value in 9th. So that's the standings after 5 races, after the midpoint of the regatta. Join us in a few minutes. We should go straight into race number 6, the second race of the day. Welcome back to Puerto in Mallorca for the second race of the day. Day number 3 of racing. We've just had race 5, saw a win for Phoenix with Quantum Racing in second and Sled in third. Quick look at the overalls before we return to the racetrack, and Phoenix are leading now on 14 points. Second are Sled on 15. Then a 5-point gap now to Interlodge, which dropped to a 9th place there and dropped from the top of the leaderboard to third. Platoon and Quantum Racing now close behind. Fourth for Platoon, 5th for Quantum, 23 and 25 points respectively. Provezza tied with Quantum on 25 points. Allegra 7th, Gladiator 8th and Vayu 9th. So everything to play for. Maybe that 5-point gap between Sled and Interlodge may prove pivotal, but let's wait and see. So we are 30 seconds from the start. Interesting to see Quantum pushing for the pin end of the line this time. Phoenix free boats up, more midline. Quantum confident, I think, in their starts. After that last one, they were absolutely on the line, on the gun, first across the line. This is time and distance for Quantum now at 3-4 seconds to go. And Quantum are through the line first again. Interlodge start nicely at the committee boat end. Sled one boat down now, so different line bias for me. More on the pin end this time, or certainly less in the committee boat end of the line. Quantum take that one, jump out to an early lead. So first and second just now. Off the line are Provezza at the extreme right end, Quantum at the extreme left hand, but Quantum already a boat length and a half ahead. Phoenix 2 boats up from Quantum. So skeptics among you on this left-hand track might say the race is over already. Quantum 50 metres ahead and firing on all cylinders, dragging out to the left side. A little bit of a knock already. However, stranger things have happened. Phoenix going well in second. They have upwind boat speed for sure. Those of you who maybe missed our earlier commentaries, Phoenix have gone back to the original keel fin. Having changed at the early change before the start of the season. So the key things for the Phoenix team, the Regatta leaders at this stage. Sled, the next boat on the standings just now, are in 7th. And Interlodge are in 6th. So things looking good for Phoenix and indeed for Quantum. Quantum climbing up the leaderboard, up to 5th now. Platoon stronger this time as well. Gladiator and Value out on that right side. Gladiator converging with Value, 8th and 9th just now on the water. Gladiator attacking inside. So the key thing really for Phoenix in this race is at this stage in the regatta is watching the sled much more than concerning themselves whether they gain or lose a point relative to Quantum. Although big picture looking at the season standings, Quantum have lost a lot of their lead. I think I had them at 7 points ahead. And I think Phoenix probably up to second overall on the season's leaderboard. But we'll see that at the end of the regatta. In the meantime, Quantum leading this race comfortably by 70 metres or so from Phoenix. So look at that, the bows start to come down a little bit. Allegra, Phoenix, Platoon getting into the knock, and at the same time Quantum tacking onto the port tack lift. This is Palma. Interesting though, Quantum then putting it in the bank. Phoenix and Allegra carrying on. Phoenix' problem is if they attack early, they risk Allegra getting over the top of them. It's a little bit of a waiting game for Phoenix. To a certain extent anyway. Provezza in third, best positioned of the group to weather of Phoenix. Platoon potentially looking at a 5 and a 6 today unless they can get through a few boats. But the way I see it just now, Quantum could have a big lead round this top mark. Interlodge made some nice gains, a good bit of speed and height. Looking how Interlodge have climbed away from Provezza. If we look at the overhead shot, see Interlodge have had a nice phase. Phoenix then tacked back and ended up having to tack again for Platoon. It's not good for Phoenix. Maybe didn't see them or fully appreciate that they would be so close to them going back. And that's cost Phoenix a place for a couple of places. So Interlodge, interesting, just working up the middle of the course. They have had a good lane most of the time, relatively clear air, seem to be able to sail quite a high mode. Just lifting up to Platoon and Phoenix's line. So just when you thought things were looking good for Phoenix, and just when Interlodge needed to bounce back after that 9th place, so here they are in second to Quantum, 20 or so meters ahead of a Sled. Remember, there are 5 points between Sled and Interlodge after that first race today. So just now this would see Sled top of the table after today. Were things to stay the same, but everything depends on this mark rounding, depends on the ley line into the mark, particularly for those boats coming in from the left side. Sled though have a nice lane, untroubled just now out on the right. And if they could hold from there, get to the ley line, come in on starboard, might yet be interesting. So between Interlodge and Sled just now for second and third. Interlodge more towards the middle of the course. Sled dragging out to the right, sailing actually quite a low angle relative to Quantum, diverging away from Quantum's line. Maybe we just find a little righty for Sled at the top of the course. So question in from Segelberater Oliver Ochse, I think. What are the wind conditions out on the water right now? Well, we have 8.5 to 9 knots from the south-southwest. Very flat water. Air temperature, as you can see, about 30 degrees Celsius. Puffing up to 10 knots at times, but that really has been the same for the first couple of days. You wonder whether the sea breeze generator, the sea breeze engine that is created so often here in the Bay of Palma. We have these big mountains at the back, the north of the island, which draw the warm air in. So close between close between Sled and Interlodge just now. Let's watch then. Sled will get to ley line just in the next few seconds. We're just seeing them tacking now. Now for me, if they come out with a high line in a good lane, I think they'll get over Interlodge. So this could be the key move, or a key move, if this could give Sled the lead depending on how Phoenix get round the top mark. Phoenix in 7th. Remember, there's only a point between Phoenix and Sled going into this race. Phoenix 3rd here last time, and Sled won when we were here in August 2021. So Quantum tacking now. No question who's leading this regatta, who's leading this race then, 140 metres or so. Just watching Sled and Interlodge. Sled will cross Interlodge. With Sled just looking like they might be just a little bit tight on ley line. But just squeezing up into high mode. Main sheet trimmer is Don Cowie, owner driver Takashi Okura. Working hard to get a little bit of extra height, and that will get them round. In 2nd, Interlodge looking like they'll get 3rd. All the time we're watching Phoenix coming in there, probably 7th. So 4th round value, good first leg for them. Improvezza in 5th, Gladiator 6th, Phoenix 7th, Allegra 8th, and looking like 9th for Platoon. Amazing, isn't it? Platoon in the last race went round in 8th, this time it's 9th. They're just not getting their way up the beat the way you'd expect from the team which has won the World Championship here. And is one of the quickest boats in the light conditions. So as ever then, a straight run. Nose to tail down this first run, race 6. There's your potential points standings projected. If all the boats finish in the same position they are on the water just now, Sled would lead this regatta by 4 points. Phoenix would be 2nd, Interlodge 3rd, Quantum up to 4th, only 3 points behind Interlodge. So, how fascinating. In the Quantum camp, you wonder whether that 21 point opening 3 races will cost them. But certainly 2-2-1 potentially. You wonder whether it'll be too little, too late for the regatta title, but they can only do what they can do. So few passing opportunities, particularly downwind. Phoenix about 60 metres or so behind Gladiator. So Quantum Racing, then you'd have to say the copybook Palma race off the pin end of the line. Perfect timing, good speed. Immediately they had a boat length and a half of lead. And now over 100 metres clear as we come down this first run. Wind still about 9 knots. No change at all in the course, as is often the case in the sea breeze. Set the windward mark for the day. Anyway, Quantum, jibe off, Value have gone as well. Phoenix trying to get back at Gladiator and Provezza. Another comment from Johnny Goldsberry, who, if I remember rightly, used to sail on the Interlodge. Anyway, he's a big fan, asking who's on board. And for that very purpose then, the crew line up on the Interlodge. Pedro Mas on the bow, Nick Ford mid-bow, Chris Matthews in the pit, Dave Armitage trimming, John O'Swain in the pit, Rod Dawson on the main, Austin Fragman on the helm, Cameron Appleton tactics, Michael Menninger, the young member of the American Magic team, past Etchells world champion, is doing strategy, or strategy is written on the crew list, but never mind. Juan Villa, America's Cup winner, Volvo Ocean Race winner, is the navigator. Grinders are Tom O'Donnell and Chris Brittle. Luke Malloy on runners, and Eddie Campbell is the floater. So that is the Interlodge crew lineup, especially for Johnny Goldsberry, who's paying a great compliment to Michael Menninger as the strategist, new to this fleet this year, and clearly doing a great job. But in the meantime, Quantum leading, Interlodge chasing sled as best they can. Phoenix actually seemed to have made a little bit of a gain down that left side looking downwind. A little bit more pressure. Remember, they were close with the Gladiator. Interesting. Value sailing just a little bit deeper. I'm sure if they could come away and hold on to this fourth through the finish line, they'd be delighted with that. A little bit of coming down to an earth with a little bit of a bump, considering how well the first two regattas of the season really started for them. I think both in Bayona and in Cascais, they were up in the top 2, top 3 in the first few days. Not so here in Puerto Portales. Will you remember they joined us in August last year when we did the Puerto Portales 52 Super Series Sailing Week, and we also had the 20th anniversary invitational We had 23 boats racing here. Or was it 13? I think it was 13. But that was where we first saw the Vayu. And they enjoyed it so much. They raced, I think, in Menorca and couldn't do the last regatta of the season because of the health restrictions, particularly at home in Thailand. But they made the commitment to do the full circuit. They're on the Quantum program. So running Quantum sails, and they get the support then of James Line and the coaching staff and all the data collection and analysis that that team do. Other teams, of course, do much the same. They've got kind of 70 metres in hand over Prevetsa du Vayu. On that basis, let's have a quick run through the Vayu crew list if I can find it. Because it's they have one or two changes this week. So, not sure who's on the bow actually. Didn't specify their bowman, but Alex Falafel from Thailand is mid-bow. Tom Whitcraft is pit. Kevin Whitcraft upwind trim. Gabriele Olivio from Italy, downwind trimmer, long-time sailor with them. Nick Whitcraft is a grinder. Manuel Marino is a grinder. John Heineck from Thailand is a grinder. Pom Green, the project manager, is a main trimmer. Don Whitcraft is the helmsman. Nick Rogers is tactics. Dylan Whitcraft is on the backstay. Malie Whitcraft is offside backstay. Miles Seddon from Great Britain is a navigator, and former Optimus World Champion Nopakau Bunpat is a strategist back on the boat. She joined, she was with the team a year ago. I think this is her first regatta this season. So anyway, Quantum then leading through the leeward gate with a lead of over 150 metres. Sled and Interlodge looking like they'll be next. Second and third. Vayu have jibed coming in on starboard. Looking like everybody will come to this right-hand mark looking upwind. Possibly Interlodge may choose the left, they've just jibed. So there we go, the magic of the sled tracker. It doesn't like to jibe the boat too early. And they always head downwind for an extra 100 metres or so. There's just a little bit of an anomaly on that tracker. Don't get excited. Get it if you're a big sled fan. In 1 second it's going to ping back. Look at that as I speak. Boat goes straight back upwind, head to wind. And back up to second. Defying the laws of physics. But they are still second and will be regatta leaders if things stay the same. Phoenix coming around this leeward gate inside Prevetsa. Again, hopefully that's a little miracle of the vigorous of the tracker, where we see Prevezza going to windward of the mark, but hopefully. So that's the order: Quantum, Sled, Interlodge, Vayu, Prevezza, Gladiator, Allegra, and that doesn't like the fact that Phoenix didn't appear to go down the mark, but Phoenix, I think, will still be up there, possibly in 5th or 6th. So we're on the second and final beat of the day. It is 16:10 locally here on the Bay of Palma in Mallorca. 32 degrees, I think, on the water now. Still plenty warm enough. And a classical left-hand track, a Palma track, in this breeze, sea breeze at 200 degrees. So things looking pretty good for the sled team right now, lying second. Almost certainly going to take over the regatta lead, which they shared really in terms of points after day one. We're tied with Phoenix. This will see them 4 points clear, I think, at the end of the day. Sled won here last year. Vayu converging with Phoenix. The Sled have at the back of the boat Francesco Bruni and Murray Jones. Murray Jones, 6 times America's Cup winner. Francesco Bruni with the Luna Rossa team. One of the real all-rounders in the fleet is Bruni, in the same mould as Tom Slingsby and indeed Paul Goodison, sailing the full spectrum of different crafts through the year between the Moth and the Maxis, Swan 50s. But it's the TP52, the 52 Super Series is what counts. So big shout out to Mark Block, who just says, love this. Well, we all do, and indeed the guys on the water do. Speak to any of the top pros who've been doing this for some of them since the very beginning of the TP52 fleet in the Med, which was 2005, and they still tell you this is their class of preference and their circuit of preference. I was talking about the sled team a moment ago, talking about the afterguard. The navigator is Andrea Vicentini, an Italian, who, when so many of the other top pro sailors in this fleet are out cycling every morning around these beautiful surroundings and the scenery and the mountains of Mallorca. Andrea's a bit of a trail runner, runs the hot and dusty trails at the back of Puerto Portals every morning. So once again, Gladiator doing nice work on the second round. They were a little bit deep before, but we saw this in the previous race. Got themselves out to the left of the group, really on the second beat. This is an almost repeat performance, although they did then lose a couple of places thereafter. But and that once again is to the expense of value. So Sled made a little bit of a gain back on Quantum, and that gain may increase once they tack. If Sled is far enough left to take on that lefty, take on the lift on Port. Certainly half the initial lead of Quantum. May have a boat race yet. However, a little bit of it's about the geometry of the course and getting out to the ley line. Just now Interlodge appear to be above our ley line. At the same time, Sled tack back. We'll see the advantage line, I think, drop to Quantum as they build speed, but Quantum go at the same time. So I figure we'll see something of a repeat performance, much the same as we saw in the last race, with Quantum protecting down the or Quantum this time protecting down the final run to Sled, and much the same way that we saw Phoenix protecting against Quantum down the final run. Really not too many options for Sled, you wouldn't think. Meantime, mid-table, Value, Phoenix, Gladiator, all very close. So Phoenix still battling with Vayu to windward. So Allegra having a little bit of a shocker in this race. Down in ninth, but it happens. Like I say, if you get back in the fleet, it's so hard to get places back on this one-sided track. Not too many shifts, not too many changes in wind pressure. So keep the questions coming on our social media channels on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. ...120 metres or so that Quantum are leading the sled. So let's see what the rounding order is in this final upwind mark of the day. Quantum kite goes up and down. Sled round second, as was the case at the top mark first time up. Interlodge looking good for third. Now it's between Phoenix and Vayu. Really, who's next? Phoenix will be on starboard. Vayu might be slightly closer to the mark. No, it's going to be Phoenix, I think, for fourth. Pravetsa and Vayu close. Pravetsa on starboard. Vayu having really no choice but to tack inside or to go behind. Choose to tack inside. It's a tough one for Don Whitcraft, the driver on the Vayu. Getting up round that top mark. Phoenix through in fourth. In the end it's Pravetsa fifth. Vayu in sixth. Gladiator seventh. Eighth is Platoon. And Allegra. And then coming round in ninth. So a little comment from Marty Gingras saying what a great how great the commentator is. Well, thank you very much. But we've been doing this for a few years. It's not my first rodeo, as they say. But I am watching the tracker most of the time nowadays. We're only doing live streaming from the water, as you probably know, from the Cascais, from the Rolex T52 Worlds, and we will have live from the water at the season's finale in Barcelona in October, which will be a big event. It will be our 10th anniversary party at the end of that, and so you can imagine that the season champions will really go to town. Anyway, Sled will finish the day perhaps with a lead of 1 point. Perhaps. As Phoenix have got themselves up to 4th, you would not think there'd be too much of a chance on a course like this of them getting down to Interlodge, given that it's 180 metres or so. But it's a pretty brutal track, isn't it, this here? You make a mistake, you lose 2-3 boats, and that's it. Uncompromising. But that's the nature of racing here on the Bay of Palma, as so many of these teams, so many of these sailors have done for so many years. It's what they sign up for. Such a premium place on starting and getting the first shift. And this race is Quantum's, and as I said, was Quantum's off the start line. So a little bit of a difficult questions, I suppose, for Phoenix. Phoenix were in good shape on that first beat until they tacked back and got very close to Platoon. I don't know whether they didn't see Platoon or they ended up doing the double tack, and that really cost them a top 3, top 4 position at that time. You know, going around the top mark in 7th place. So credit to them getting back up to 4th, and double credit getting up to 4th on this track, on this course. So certainly keeping themselves in contention. So this will be Quantum Racing's first victory in Puerto Portals at this regatta. 2 seconds in race 4 and race 5, and then a win. But they go on the they went across the start line of that race with an 11-point deficit on the leaders Phoenix. There's a lot to catch up on boats like Phoenix and Sled in particular. And a challenge, of course, for Sled this season. Last year they raced with Murray Jones on the helm, as Mr. Akura, the owner-driver, could not travel. So a new challenge in many respects at the start of the season in Bayona, where Mr. Akura took over the helm. It's the first time he sailed with, or that Francesco Bruni had sailed with him, first time he'd met him. And so all these after-guard dynamics take time to settle in, to bed in. Not least the communication with Murray Jones as strategist as opposed to a helmsman. And again, when you talk about changes, potential changes, we were expecting to have Hasso Plattner here. He was on the crew list, and unfortunately at the last minute, as I say, circumstances conspired against him. But our understanding is that Hasso and Tina will be joining us in the following regattas. And that does present a new challenge. As it did for Quantum here. And they're used to changes. We knew that this season Doug DeVos would only do the 4 regattas, which is one more than he normally does, usually between 2 and 3 each season. But I think his role at Amway is reduced, and consequently he has more time to enjoy his yacht racing, although he has a commitment, a long-standing commitment to do the Chicago Mackinac race, and I believe he's done every one. So that's where he is with Ed Baird on board, hence Cameron Appleton standing in as a tactician on the interlodge. So certainly Sled have got into Quantum just a little bit. Can't say the same for Interlodge getting into Sled, nor indeed for Phoenix getting into Interlodge. Plus or minus 200 metres between Sled and Interlodge and Phoenix. So anyway, the Quantum team can reflect in a few minutes on a job well done today. Put their rocky start behind them. Spoke with Michele Valdi last night, and he was just saying, well, not changing anything. Interesting then, Sled jibing away from, Quantum jibing away from Sled early. Sled carrying on as they line up for the finish line. A little bit of a match race, which is working out to Interlodge's advantage. Remember, they were over 200 metres behind. So So I wonder whether Sled can get through. Possible, but a lot of bias in the finish line looking at it from overhead. Certainly the left end of the line is significantly closer. Maybe the Interlodge have caught right up. So a little bit closer at the finish than we expect. I don't imagine that Quantum are going to lose this one, but Interlodge potentially seem to have got through Sled. But remember, Sled's tracker is a little bit dodgy. However, let's wait and see. I don't think there'll be too many changes really. Quantum in the end should be able to get down from there to the finish line, but it is close. Navigator Michele Avaldi will be calling the distance to the right end of the line. Sled pushing hard. And it's very close through the finish line. Looks like Sled may just have pipped him by 1 second. Well, who would have thought that? We'll have it confirmed in a few moments, but Sled get through for, I think, for first, Quantum second in the end. Remember, they were over 150 metres clear at one stage. Interlodge get through for a much closer third. We're only 5 seconds behind. There was me saying 250 metres at one point. Phoenix coming through for fourth. So that's a good result for Sled. Quantum Racing, we have them 1 second behind. But in a matter of a minute or two, once we get everybody finished, I'll have a confirmation from the race boat. So Interlodge get third, Phoenix fourth. Phoenix is fourth, keep them very much in the game. Provezza fifth, not too bad at all. Sixth for Vayu, they were up in fourth at one point. But nevertheless, they're second, sixth in as many days, so not too bad. Platoon ending up coming through the line in seventh, considering they were ninth at one point. Eighth is going to be actually Allegra get eighth, and Gladiator end up in ninth, considering that Gladiator were fifth, and if we saw him fourth at one stage going up the second beat out on the left hand side. But really, it's a big upset in the end with Sled getting through to win just by a hair's breadth. It was very much a photo finish. So things improving all the time though for Quantum. Quantum were 8th at the end of the first day, 7th at the end of the second day, and now looking like they'll be 4th at the end of today. 3 points from the podium and 10 points from the leaders. So just waiting for the confirmation coming in from the race committee, which we usually get in a few seconds' time. Just seeing that, whether we have that confirmed that Sled won by just a second. But certainly the current champions who won on the Bay of Palma won in November to become only the third team to win the circuit in the history of the 52 Super Series in 10 years. after a Quantum Racing and of course an Azura. So certainly Sled will top the table after today. And actually that extra place, we think, beating Quantum through the finish line and thereby adding to the curse of the commentator who just saying coming down that final run, there's no way that Quantum can be passed now, and Sled did it, got out to the left, coming downwind, pulled Quantum wide. Don't know whether that was Andrea Vicentini in particular or just realising there was that bias on the finish line. So say, just waiting for that confirmation, but I think if our wonderful colleagues at Geo Racing could run us the standings as projected, I'm pretty sure we'll see Sled at the top of the table. They won here last year. Do we have the standings? Projected standings, hopefully, coming up on your screens in a matter of seconds. Yeah, there you go. So Sled would be 2 points clear of Phoenix. Both boats, in fact, getting places in the final stages of that race. So 2 points clear for Sled. Phoenix, Interlodge, not a bad day for them in the end, really. A little bit of damage limitation getting that third in that race. Quantum, as we said, moving up to fourth. They're now 11 points off the lead with 4 races still to go. Platoon and Quantum swap places today. Platoon 30 points. Really not what we expect from the double world champions. Provezza in 6th, Allegra in 7th, Gladiator in 8th, and Vayu in 9th, still 47 points for them. But I'm not sure that we're going to get the race result off the committee boat. And we'll stick with, I think we'll stick with Sled winning. It's not going to make a massive difference to the overalls. For sure, Sled will still be on top, whether it's 2 points or 1 point. But they did have a solid day, Sled, with a third and a first. Quantum Racing potentially 2 seconds then. I'm not sure they'll be too upset about that, but there we have it. 2 pretty decent races, still relatively light sea breezes. Hopefully things will build up a little bit more for tomorrow. Unusual for us to be racing on a Monday, but join us tomorrow and let's see how it goes. Thank you for joining us.